North Korea seems to be increasing the work at its nuclear test site to include a second tunnel. This, according to a US-based think tank, and follows the continued reiteration from South Korea and US, who believe that North Korea might conduct a nuclear test on any given day. The Center for Strategic and International Studies said in a report citing commercial satellite imagery that the preparation work at this nuclear test facility's tunnel number 3 was apparently complete, adding that the facility was ready for a possible nuclear test. The research group also said that analysts spotted new activity at the facility's tunnel number 4 for the first time, which they feel is a strong indication that the country was trying to re-enable itself for a potential test in the future. North Korea has conducted 6 underground nuclear tests at the site from the years 2006 to 2017. The 2 tunnels were never used for nuclear tests and their entrances were demolished in 2018. This came when North Korea declared a self-imposed suspension on testing nuclear weapons and its intercontinental ballistic missiles. However, the leader, Kim Jong-un, has now said that he was no longer bound by the suspension. As the US had failed to reciprocate well during the denuclearization talks. North Korea has resumed testing ballistic missiles this year. South Korea said that it was closely monitoring developments on the North's nuclear activity when asked about the report. However, they did not make any further comment. South Korea also said that any provocation by North Korea, including a nuclear test, would be met with a united and a firm response from the US and South Korea. The South Korean foreign minister also urged China, who has been North Korea's only major ally for years, to use its influence and vow to work to normalize an intelligence-sharing pact with Japan as soon as possible to boost their response to North Korea's nuclear and missile threat. This, of course, is our top story of the hour. Concerns are rising, especially among South Korea and the United States, about North Korea's nuclear arsenal. US and South Korean officials believe that North Korea seems to be increasing the work at its nuclear test site to include a second tunnel. This has been a warning that has been raised by the US and South Korea quite a number of times in the last few weeks, that the North could conduct a nuclear test at any given day. Some more information that we have at this point is that the facility was possibly ready for a nuclear test. Now, to understand the situation better, our correspondent Phoebe Amoroso is live with us from Tokyo. Phoebe, thanks so much for joining us. My first question, the US and South Korea believe that the North may conduct a nuclear test at any time. This has been a warning that they have been raising for weeks now, and evidence seems to bolster this claim. What's your take?
The latest is that there is fresh activity at the punggye-ri nuclear facility test site, and it seems that North Korea is working on the number 4 tunnel at that site. And the reports that we have been hearing for weeks have related to the number 3 tunnel, in which preparations look to be complete, that the North could be ready at any moment to conduct a nuclear test. And that site was used for several nuclear tests between 2006 and 2017, 6 underground nuclear tests. But in 2018, North Korea very dramatically and very publicly, inviting the world to watch, blew up the entrances to those tunnels. Now, earlier this year, we heard from Pyongyang, from Kim Jong-un, that he's no longer abiding by the self-imposed moratorium, and that was to not conduct any nuclear tests or intercontinental ballistic missile launches. We have seen some ICBM launches this year, and he's been quite explicit in how the US is not keeping up its side of the deal, at least from Kim Jong-un's perspective, that the US is not making enough efforts towards denuclearization talks. And so this is why potentially we're seeing increased activity preparing for another nuclear test. But yes, the world is still watching and waiting to see how this situation develops.
I think another big question that arises, Phoebe, at this point is the US and South Korea are saying that they will bolster their response in the face of a nuclear test, a possible nuclear test. What could this response entail?
With South Korea, it's just had a visit. The new president, President Yoon Suk-yeol, has just had a visit from US President Joe Biden. And in light of this, we're seeing both countries really push for stronger defense cooperation. So just earlier this week, South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin was in Washington, D.C., meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to discuss ways that the two sides can work together. And yes, their statement on any test from North Korea would be to strengthen their deterrence and show a very firm response. But they are still calling for the North to come to the table, to come to talks and really engage with dialogue. And we also heard Park call on North Korea's ally China to engage with the North to try and convince it to move away from this nuclear path. And we're also seeing South Korea take a broader approach and work towards mending ties with Japan. And this is partly with the US giving both sides a push, saying that trilateral cooperation is absolutely essential for dealing with Pyongyang. And so it looks as if a long-standing military information sharing agreement between South Korea and Japan may be normalized. Both sides have expressed their intention just this week to really try and improve information sharing and make it smoother in the light of the threat posed by the North.
Right, Phoebe, thanks so much for all those inputs and thanks for joining us on WION at this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.